Okay, I'll call this regular council meeting of October the 28th to, October 28th, 2014 to order at 1900 7 o'clock. And a motion for adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councilor Hewitt, seconded by Councilor Lang. All in favor? Motion passes. And adoption of the regular council meeting 2014 10/40 2014 October 14th. God. Moved by Councilor Leithwood, seconded by Councilor Lang. All in favor? Motion passes. And that the minutes of the committee of the whole received for 2014 October 7th. Moved by Councilor Hewitt, seconded by Councilor Lang. And that the minutes of the said committee meeting held 2000.
I don't actually have copies of those minutes yet. I was hoping I'd get them, but I don't have them.
Okay, so we don't have to do anything with that.
No, yeah, that's for next time.
No delegations. Business arising from the minutes. Report from the administrator.
Okay, full pickup's underway, and as you can see, if you've been driving around in the dark, our new street lights on Water Street are up and they're working. Warning lights have been temporarily installed on Front Street from the public of the new four-way stop. In terms of bylaws, I will be bringing two further bylaws in the next few weeks. A board of variance authorization bylaw is required so that council can properly fulfill its obligations under Part 26 of the Local Government Act. Secondly, the village's building bylaw requires a small formal amendment to ensure that there's a clear cut-off between the use of the village and RDCK building bylaws. The policy that we were informed was enough back in the spring, turns out isn't enough, so we have to make a little bit of a bylaw amendment there, not a major one. Polling clerks, payment for services by election officers and polling clerks in 2011 were as follows: the poll clerk $350, deputy election officer $500, chief election officer $650. I'm not recommending that there be any increase at this time. However, we do require a resolution.
I'll move that the payment for election services for chief election officer, deputy chief election officer, and polling clerks remain at the 2011 levels.
Moved by Councilor Hewitt, seconded by Councilor Leithwood. Discussion. Call a question. All in favor? Motion passes.
And some important dates for council. There's your usual dates there, but you'll also note that assuming all goes smoothly in our report later this evening, there'll be a public hearing on November 18th at 4 p.m. ahead of committee of the whole, so that we can get the third reading and adoption of the proposed existing bylaw done by the 25th.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Councilor.
I just had a public member ask why those warning lights are not flashing red rather than yellow, because amber is
Caution.
yeah.
It was a product we could source.
Oh.
It was from a traffic supply vendor, and staff felt that was a relatively high visibility method of informing the public.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Just passing on their question.
5. Correspondence.
Well, I'm going to move that we make I think it's normally $50 donation to the Legion Coffee Fund.
I'll second that.
Discussion. All in favor? Motion passes.
And I guess they also advise them that you will be there to lay the wreath.
Correct. just out of interest's sake, they have, and this has never happened before to my knowledge, but the mayor of the community is awarded the first poppy. And after the mayor gets that poppy, everybody else gets their poppies. So today, in front of Colonel Campbell's plaque, the Legion presented me with the mayor's poppy. And, so now I've got it on my hat, so if you're buying poppies to help them out, please do so. Okay, now communications for information. Motion to receive, or does someone want to pull something out of it?
I'd like to pull it's the second item, the letter from Spall Machine.
So would you like to
So I'll move that we
receive?
receive the other 3 items.
Moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor Leafwood. Discussion, all in favor, motion passes.
The letter from Spall Machine is regarding smart meter concerns, and I'd like to have council consider writing a similar letter with some additional wording though. And that could, basically that consideration be given to those who refuse smart meters and do not have the means to pay the additional fees being proposed. And it was $88 flat fee for refusing, and then at $18 per reading on an ongoing basis. So for some people that is onerous because they're refusing on, for medical grounds, and so they don't have an income level that's sufficient, that they can afford. It may not seem a lot to many people, but it does make a difference to the bottom line for a lot of people.
So would that be a letter of support to Spall Machine, or just redraft their letter? Direction to staff to redraft the letter and submit.
Yeah, basically, they've got a resolution here. Let everybody have a chance to read it.
Staff to send this to Minister Williams.
Yes.
Okay.
So do you have sufficient direction then? Anything else? Councilor Good?
I just couldn't give anyone else a chance to read it, so they know what we they may be voting on. It may be a good idea to also have the letter go to our local MLA and to the regional district to let them know that we have made this resolution, and also to Spall Machine, letting them know it might be, that we support what they're doing, and we share their concerns.
Now, are they in Fortis's area or Hydro area?
They are, yes.
Further discussion?
I'll move that I didn't know there was a second.
Moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor Leafwood. Discussion, call the question, all in favor, motion passes. I had an email on that today, which is interesting issues of hardship. And I'm thinking back here, that's been discussed both with Hydro and Fortis somehow. How do you establish hardship? Okay, what's your annual income? And I don't think, I'm not too sure where the medical one is. I haven't read anything where a doctor said that, but certainly in terms of hardship, I think there's a reasonable thing. And the other thing that for our community is, if somebody has a hardship, what could we do to help them insulate their home so that it isn't leaking heat out all the place? You know what I mean? I can think of one citizen that's a real problem. So that's where, you know, getting Power Smart or somebody to do a little report on their house, we could have you know, if somebody has a complaint, how can we work, okay? Because, you know, for our older homes, that's the
Well, I think, Fortis has been a few times and has done things for, you know, provided free weather stripping and the insulation for pipes and that kind of stuff for energy efficiency, so that you can reduce the costs, but if it's.
Should we copy Fortis on this letter too?
If, you know, you'll find the appropriate body, you know, the appropriate person to forward it to, where would it make the most impact, whether it's our local.
Because I'd like to work with Fortis on this, you know, when you identify somebody where there's an issue, what could we do to, okay. All right, let's see. Staff, okay, finish with the package, committee and staff reports. Would somebody want to?
So I'll move that the committee that the village approve the winter kids luge request from KDCFS and the aerodrome grounds, as long as the village is named as an additional insured on the society's general liability policy and the village foreman supervises the clerks.
Moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes.
I will also move that a letter of support be approved for the Langham Cultural Society's proposal as submitted to council.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Hewitt, second by Councilor Leithwood. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Just on this matter, I had a letter from Michael Guthrie, who's been nominated for a BC award. And he wanted me to write a letter of recommendation to the nominators, so they had to have 2 letters. So I just got this thing late last night. So I emailed him back and said I would do that, but I think it would be more effective if it was on village letterhead. I'd try and get you guys a draft, but what it is just, you know, there's a community champion that despite all odds, you know, made it happen. And it's a credit to him in terms of his continued support and the legacy he left behind to support that thing. So I was going to try and draft something up. I'll run it past Neil and you guys can have a look at it. I asked him what the timeline was for, so that's the critical thing. So is everybody happy with that situation?
So can it come back, will it be
I'll send it in
time for, so we can look at it at next committee of the whole?
Well, I think he needs it before that.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just saying, you can circulate it by email if you have any issues with it. I mean, it's not, you might even add something to it, actually. I got to dig deep into some history here to get the time. Okay. All right, staff report rezoning application.
Okay, we have an application here. The applicant is requesting that council amend bylaw number 30 to rezone the subject property to R1 residential to facilitate the eventual construction of a dwelling. As you can see the background, it's located on North Marine Drive, currently undeveloped land, 0.27 acres. And the OCP designation is TC, Tourist Commercial Mixed Use. It's surrounded by North Marine Drive and developed residential properties, partially developed multiple dwelling, and one legal non-conforming residential property owned by the applicant. I have no major concerns. I've provided a report there for council. The application to rezone the subject area from C1, waterfront commercial, to R1, single and two-family residential, from a planning perspective, seems fine in that area. They could perhaps have chosen C3 as well, but they didn't want to pursue that neighbourhood commercial. So it's generally consistent with the official community plan. And I've provided 3 recommendations there.
Maybe be made all at once, or should they be made individually? I'm willing to move all 4 or 3 as a block.
Better if the public hearing is a standalone resolution.
Yeah.
All right, okay, so number 1 and 2. Number 1 is that council receives application number RZ 2014-01 to amend Village of Kaslo land use bylaw 1130, 2013 by rezoning the following property as shown on Appendix A to bylaw 1163. And that is Lot B, District Lot 208, Kootenai District, Plan NEP N090470 from C1 waterfront commercial to R1 single and 2-family residential. And the second one is that council give first and second reading to Village of Kaslo bylaw 1130 2013, amendment bylaw number 1163 2014.
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Leithwood. Discussion, call the question, all in favor?
I got this one. That a public hearing is scheduled for 4 p.m. on Tuesday, November 18, 2014 in council chambers.
Moved by Councillor Holland, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes. RDCK Director's Report.
There's nothing much to report. There was sent around both the minutes and my meeting notes were sent around to everybody. The main thing that came out of that was a big long discussion around some of the waste issues, which is just an ongoing thing. So you kind of saw that some of the discussion that was about it.
Emergency Response Committee minutes.
I'll move that the latest RDCK Emergency Response Committee minutes be received.
Moved by Councillor Leithwood, second by Councillor Hewitt. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that the October 2014 RDCK board meeting minutes be received.
Moved by Councillor Leithwood, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes. Verbal reports. Councillor Leithwood.
I've got 2. One is from the arena. You probably have seen in the Pennywise that we needed to put a new application out for a lease for the concession. We had to have a report done by an engineer because we needed to fix some venting issues, and we had applied for a grant and received some money, but once we got the report, it was way too cost prohibitive for us to be able to do about a $70,000 bill. So we had to ensure that there was no grilling or anything done at the arena. So we've now had to put a new call for leases out again. And, you know, there seems to be some misunderstanding that we, you know, forced that to happen. We did. It was an engineering report and fire marshal report, which we have to comply with. So that's the reason why the arena lease concession is up for lease. And then the second one is just about the poverty meeting that we had yesterday. There were quite a few people attending it. They said it was the best attended meeting that they've been having since they started them. It's really evident there's a lot of people in our community that do a lot of things to sort of mitigate poverty. But the problem that we did identify is that not necessarily that the services aren't there, but trying to get people to access the services and, you know, even be aware that those services are there. I think as a council, you know, there are certain things we can do. I think one of them is that we really need to be aware of the burden we put on our taxpayers. You know, if there are things, obviously there's things that need to be, that we need to tax people, but as much as possible, we really need to be aware of, you know, the kind of income that is in our community, which is considerably lower than the provincial average. So I think the council, what we can do is to try and be aware of that, which I think we do a good job of that. But it is something to consider when, people come to us to join services and do things that are gonna cause burdens to the taxpayer.
Councillor Lang?
No.
Questions?
No.
Yeah, just, I guess, the second annual Prince of Kootenai Lake Summit was in Kaslo, and it was well attended. Good conference, some good speakers. One of the highlights was listening to the archaeologist, I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. But he, Wayne Shortcat gave a really good talk about the area and the movement of peoples, and really interesting. You ever get a chance to see the guy speak, he's high and inspiring. Really gives you a good background of what kind of going on around here for the last 15,000 years. So what came out of that was there's work being done around Kootenai Lake involving the International Joint Commission on Kootenai Lake Border Patrol and all that stuff. And kind of keeping us in the loop around developments on Kootenai Lake. I think one of the big pushes that you guys have heard about already is around trying to do something to work on cutting down on sewage being dumped in the lake by houseboats and motor boats and all that stuff. So it's the project that Woodbury's going ahead. And Kaslo, you guys are Kaslo signed on to deal with that and support that. So that's kind of where it's going. The conservation guys are there, and they're working real hard in the areas adjacent to our jurisdiction, along all the jurisdictions on Kootenai Lake, and they're starting to identify some activities that can be taken on by that group of folks. About it.
Councillor Gill? I got two. One was the last hospital board meeting, and these meetings, with 30 people sitting around the table are really complicated, and I've met with Amy twice on this issue to try to have a session with council to explain what's happening. But the main issue is the one site versus the two site issue. And a presentation was made by IHA where they want to put $40 million into trail and make it the regional hospital. And what I found difficult is there's a seniors center there, long-term care center with 55 people in it. They would take that over and redistribute these people somewhere. And I really struggle with that, because I think these people should be back in their communities, not warehoused out somewhere. Anyway, it ran into a lot of issues around the table in terms of the work that's been done on the one site model. That model would cost $400 million. It would take 5 years to plan it. And that plan would include what happens to Nelson and Trail. What services would they then provide? So this was all left for a workshop sometime in January. And Interior Health are, I feel a little sorry for them, because the board itself cannot provide a clear enough direction to IHA as to what they want to do. There's quite a strong lobby to make Trail the center, upgrade the emergency, and carry out a number of things like that. But there's also a sense that it could be $40 million wasted on an old building that's deteriorating faster than you can repair it to meet a modern thing. So I think council needs to, when they have a little more information that we can think about. There's been 2 papers written on it. One, Nelson and Trail both said no, we don't want a one center. But Castlegar and other directors are saying, well, just a minute, we need to look a little harder at this, because really, when you think about it, a new modern center is going to be able to attract doctors a little better than an old dying one, in my opinion. And then it's defining what that center's expertise would be. Now, as you know, in Kelowna, it's where you go if you've got a heart problem. It's very well organized, it's very efficient, it's very effective, having been there once myself. So then it would be, I think, where we have this growing age demographic here, what medical interventions, what would that center do? Other than that, it would have a state-of-the-art emergency room, especially for delivering people by helicopter. In other words, have you ever been to Trail and saw that $500,000 helipad they put in there? Well, it's flying a helicopter in there is challenging enough as it is. Anyway, I really, and Amy struggles with it too, because it's trying to put everything in context, because this has all been building, and so it'll come before the budget. So I'm really hoping that the new council, regardless of what happens, just come to council, sit down. It would probably take about an hour and a half to go through all the background behind where the board is going. The board itself is really struggling too, it's, in my opinion, because the CAO of the regional district was chairing the board, and then he went to Vancouver Island, so they got a new chair there, and council.
So basically, they think that they're gonna, all the millions of dollars that they just spent in Nelson, upgrading the emergency there, they're gonna possibly move it over to Trail and put another 40 million?
Well, you see, this is where it gets really complicated. I mean, there's different levels of emergency care, and then when you talk about emergency care, well, how current is your MRI? I mean, if somebody's coming in, they're half dead, can you get an MRI on them in 10 minutes and figure out what you should do? You know what I mean? And so now you're getting into, and where the real tough part on this board is, really, if you read the constitution of the board, it's strictly to make taxation decisions, not operational decisions. And if you remember what happened in Nelson, they were going to get a pretty high, and they raised the money and everything else, and IA said, well, you can have it, but we're not going to staff it.
No,
So I wish I could be a little clearer with, and you've been exposed to IHA, so you know what some of the background is. The second meeting, and I think it was a committee of the whole, or was it a budget meeting, I think, that I missed? I was at this highways meeting, and so the highways is out going around the province, developing a 10-year plan. So they wanted to meet with all the existing councils prior to the election, and then they'll be back. And so that pamphlet kind of outlines, some of the things that they want to deal with. I was able to raise the issue of improving the highway from Kaslo to Meadow Creek, and they said they would be prepared to discuss that in camera, but they're not prepared to release that to the public, because in the past they found the contractors that do that work phoning each other up and say, okay, well, you don't bid that one, I'll bid this one, and so they won't release the schedule for those things to happen. The other interesting one was the mayor of Nelson, the mayor of Preston, and the mayor of Castlegar put in a strong recommendation that the government and the guy running the show mentioned that they're looking hard at airports, and they want to bring back a granting system to improve these rural airports because of to create better medevac facilities. So that's just a work in progress. It's mentioned 2 or 3 times in the report in different areas. I mean, they've got a big program to finance regional airports, but what they don't have, and so the point was made that most small rural areas don't have a tax base which would support upgrading the airport in terms of runway. That tends to runway, lighting, and guidance systems. So that's all in play. In 10 years, they would make a decision as to what that might look like. What they did say that interested me was they want to partner. And they want to partner both for paving projects in municipalities. So they said it's really good if council can give them what their paving plans are, so that when they move a plant into an area, you can get it done for less than bringing in a plant yourself. So I really felt they were trying to create a really collaborative environment where the 10-year plan would involve allocating resources in a more efficient way than it occurs right now, for savings to them and savings to the municipalities. Any questions?
Well, I thought when you guys went down to the UBCM, didn't the Minister of Transportation say he was going to give us a schedule for road maintenance around here?
That's what he said.
But I think, and I was thinking, he did say it would have to be in camera though.
Well, at the meeting? Did you say-
At the meeting, that's what I remember at the meeting.
Well, the one that you just went to, but when
No,
you
no,
guys
but the
went to
one at
meeting-
UBCM,
Oh.
that's, well, I didn't go to that.
No, you didn't, it was
No.
Andy Shadrack and I went to that
Yeah.
meeting, and, no, there was no mention of in camera at the time, but whatever, I mean, if they'd like to come up here and meet with us in camera, that's fine by me, it's just having that information. but,
Yeah.
So this Dan, yeah, he's prepared to do it, but they don't know what the plan is yet either, you know, but when they do have,
They were very specific in Whistler, they said within 3 years they were gonna pave that road, so which caught me kind of off guard, because we just had a paving, big
yeah, okay.
episode here, but anyway,
Yeah.
I don't think we should abandon this, I think we should hold it,
Yeah.
feet to the fire and see what we get more information from.
The other thing that came up, it was interesting, another thing, but was big emphasis on the change in transportation in communities, bike trails, transit, scooter trails. Like they really felt that what they're hearing is that within the community, so I think what they're really saying is they need a partnership here because now whether that just involves highways, right of ways, you know, so I think that going forward, the next council might want to spend a little time on looking at a concept plan of bike trails, and because I think they're going to make funding available. Well, actually, when I think about it, they want you to use gas tax money for this stuff. But it was interesting, the level of awareness that they're getting. It is not just about highways, it's about all transportation methods, so please fill it. Okay. So, where are we done the bylaws? We've done no new business? Oh,
No, we're not. Yeah.
okay, the bylaws, right.
I'll move that bylaw 1162, a bylaw to provide for the regulation and use of council, municipal campground, and municipal parks, be read a first time by content.
Moved by Councillor Leithwood, second by Councillor Lang. Call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
Bylaw 1162, a bylaw to provide for the regulation and use of council, municipal campground, and municipal parks, be read a second and third time by title.
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Lang. Oh, she was the mover, you were the second. Moved by Councillor Leithwood, second by Councillor Hewitt. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that bylaw 1163, a bylaw to amend Village of Castle land use bylaw number 1130, be read first time by content.
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Lang. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes.
I'll move that bylaw 1163, a bylaw to amend Village of Castle land use bylaw number 1130, be read a second time by title.
Moved by Councillor Lang, seconded by Councillor Hewitt. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? Motion passes. Done? You happy? Good. New business, no items at this time. Accounts payable in the amount of $62,957.69 be approved.
No,
Oh.
$76,465.89.
What? Say that again?
$76,465.89.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, mine says $62,957.69. Okay.
That's interesting.
That's not.
I like the lower number.
Yeah, we're all drawing from the same system, how can that be?
I have no idea.
Could the motion just be that we pay the accounts payable? How do you want to do this?
The 76 one's the correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got 76.
Well, that's a little scary. How come I got the wrong one? We'll check that later. Okay, all in favor? Motion passes. Motion
Someone
to
actually
adjourn.
move it?
I think.
No.
Oh,
Well, you moved it and then you corrected
No.
it, right?
Well, you can't move.
Oh, right.
is there a movement?
So I'll move
Moved by
the accounts
Councilor Hewitt.
payable in the amount of $76,465.89 be approved for payment.
Sorry.
Second by Councillor Holland. All in favor? Motion passes. No financial report. Motion for adjournment. Councillor Leithwood. All in favor? Motion passes.